Ignition is a fractional CFO firm that
Yeah.
helps startups, right? We have about 8 to 10 CFOs. Each CFO has a portfolio of like 5 to 8 clients at one time.
Mm.
Whether that's a company going through, Series A or, trying to look for an exit or trying to raise, like whatever it might be. Um, and in doing that, obviously, I'm on the client delivery part. I'm pretty hand in hand through the initial prospect calls all the way through making sure that, what you initially are looking for out of a CFO firm, like you're getting that, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't need a fractional CFO if you like everything's cool, you have very simple books, like you're not doing anything. There's something that's going to push you over the edge and be like, we need to outsource this, like we need someone else to come in.
Mm.
So my job is to make sure that there's some type of process in place and scalable as we're growing as a company. So that way we know our clients are getting the value that they originally were seeking and to continue to add value going forward because we're not just like a placement, we're not just a project base. We really want to be part of the company onwards, right? And help you through all the challenges. So it's a lot of research, it's understanding what CFOs do, but then also the other hat I wear is how can we build all of these processes in a scalable function with an AI forward thinking mindset, right? So if we know how prospect calls go, if we know how scoping calls go, if we know how to do kickoff calls, how can we not like how can we use AI to make sure that we have a level of quality and expectation and scalability for all of these processes? Like
Yep.
they should be all the same. Like they should have the same structure. Why is that not something that is automated?
Mm.
So that's what I do. Everything I do is AI. Everything I do is trying different AI tools to solve these automation problems.
Yeah.
And engaging with clients and our CFOs. And so I'm like right in the middle of tech and finance as I should be.
As you should be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What have you tried lately that you're like, okay, this stuff. I'm like always curious about the stuff that works really well. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that doesn't.
Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, what have I not tried? So we've tried so many different things. We are a Claude team account shop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but we also, I mean, we're open everything. Like I have an open AI account of, we have, you name it. Like I'm playing with everything. We're recently playing with Uru Platforms. I don't know if you've
Ooh.
heard of Uru.
Mm-mm.
Um,
No.
Uru Platforms is very new. Um, they predominantly give you space to it kind of reminds me of some of the features in Alvex, but I think it's geared toward a lot different of a population, I would say. It's all about building personas. Well, I won't say all about, and connecting them to different tools and being able to streamline kind of your own workflow. Um, to
Mm.
say it and
Yeah.
how I'm using it right now. Actually, what I did want to talk about on the podcast was I used Uru to build a recruiter who did an entire cycle of recruiting for me, and the candidate didn't know it was AI until we literally told them it was AI.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you end up hiring the candidate?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We
Did it
should
include
talk
like
about that.
Yeah.
phone calls or was it all email or like
So my AI persona's name was Tyler. And Tyler, because I was like, I don't know, girl, boy, whatever. Tyler Jones, great name. I think one of my interns back at PwC's name was Tyler Jones. I was like, great name. Um, Named it Tyler, gave it a whole personality, experience, professional recruiting, extensive resume, whatever it is. Provided context of who is Ignition, job description, how do we arrive at what this role is, and built out, automated prompts, understanding of Gmail, hooked up a Gmail account for Tyler. I did all these things like as if you're hiring someone. This was me hiring a recruiter and building it exactly the recruiter I would want. Here's your email. Go have fun. This is how I think you should organize your email. Here's your labeling system, right? And a lot of it was me and Tyler kind of brainstorming how we were going to manage multiple roles. So anyway, went through all this process of creating Tyler. And Tyler doesn't speak to the candidates because that's weird, like not phone calls or anything like that.
Right.
But Tyler is
yeah.
essentially the coordinator for start to finish of the process, as well as scheduling interviews, debriefing candidates, gives the initial analysis to the interviewees and saying, hey, I recommend rejecting this candidate, and I've already drafted your rejection email.
Mm.
because I scored them on this rubric that you and I came up with to say, hey, they don't have enough experience here. They don't live in, Texas or Massachusetts. We prefer 8 years of experience. And, I read their cover letter and their resume, and here's where I feel like they fall short. And I've already drafted the rejection email, so just go in, and I don't have Tyler send emails like without my at least review. But everything is coming from Tyler to the candidate's perspective, right? So, I think that's great because from a very small team, what I've learned through my experience at previous companies, when you're the recruiter and then all of a sudden later at the company, you're also the CFO, people are like, wait, so what's your job function? So using these personas helps me say, okay, Tyler is recruiting. And when you get to me, you're actually
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
head of delivery, not the recruiter.
Yep.
So it helps kind of separate that, especially when it's a small company. Larger companies, obviously, you can have a little bit more, separate departments and stuff. But that's something that I built here. So obviously, instant ROI. We didn't have to hire an external recruiting company, placement firm. Tyler was able to, I automated Tyler's prompts. So every like morning, Tyler would read through his emails and see if there was anything new, send me an overview, and he would draft all the recommended responses back to the candidate. So all I had to do was, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, you can send them all. And he would send them all.
So
So
cool.
yeah, so I did that with an Uru, which made it a lot easier to kind of attach my email, tell Tyler who Tyler is, manage the context boxes, and create the prompts and automation. Um, so that was really fun to do. And again, diving to other technology. I've also used like Notebook LM,
You're
all
on
that
their homepage.
on Uru. Wait, me?
Yeah.
Like me as in,
See how Ignition Consulting scaled with Uru.
oh, there you go.
Look at that.
There you have it. I've used Notebook LM for like presentations. My CFO's I think they're starting to really like Notebook LM as well because you're able to digest information in different ways very quickly. Like some of them like to listen to an audio podcast of me getting them up to speed on a client
Yeah.
before I hand them the client. Some of them like the PowerPoint feature. Some of them like to chat to say like, hey, like what ERP was this client on? Like whatever it is, because I provide all those files when I hand off a client
I
to a
think
CFO.
so. We have an accounting firm that we use that does our books,
Yeah.
and they use Notebook LM to
Yep.
like create a podcast once
Yeah.
we close our books every month.
That's fun.
But I will say that like because they don't exactly know when to use the right words or intonations, they
Uh-huh.
made things look either way more dire than they actually were,
I
or
have seen that.
reverse, they were like super excited about something that was just like
That's not.
no, like we collected payment on an invoice. It's not that
Yeah.
exciting, right?
That's awesome. What are you talking about? That is so good though.
Yes, cash is always good, but
That's
I don't know. It was just like I found that
yeah.
there was like like listening to it. It was just
Yeah.
like no, you can't have
Yeah.
for something like this where it's like, hey, these are like our financial metrics. It
Yeah.
was like it felt weird to have Notebook LM create a podcast out of that back
Yeah,
to
it's
me.
like pop a bottle of champagne. You collected some cash.
Yeah, exactly. It was stuff like that. Or it was like,
Oh,
did you guys know that like because you know how they do the interview style thing when there's like two
yeah.
people on it.
Like two
So I
people.
forget the names that they use for it, but like it was like, Sean, did you know that IT expenses increased by 50% because of like so and so? Like I'm like, yeah, because we prepaid like an
Yeah.
invoice that we have to pay. It's like not.
It doesn't have the full accounting like guidance in there. Like
Yeah.
so
Or
prof
just I would say it doesn't have for something that you know is like the weird thing is like with accounting finance stuff you kind of want it to be a little bit dry. You just like
yeah.
you want the like information, the facts around the business. You don't
Yeah.
really want it to
Popping
be like
bottles over there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or you don't want it to be like stylized in some way. And so it just felt
Yeah.
weird for like, you know, an AI
Yeah.
voice to get like excited, emotionally excited or emotionally distraught over like the weirdest things.
Yeah, for sure. I think right now how we're using it, and again, it's very optional from a we don't have that as a required platform or anything like that. I mostly just say, hey, here's all of our client research, prospective, initial calls, scoping, discussions, and I put it all here for you.
Yeah.
And here you can digest it how you choose, but
Yeah.
also you have all the source docs. So
Right,
like,
right, right.
what I think as part of my adoption here for all of our CFOs, because everybody, and I know you and I talked about this at Embark, everybody's on a different level of AI adoption.
Yeah.
And so I think
Mhm.
using and just introducing tools to people and seeing how they like to use it, what they gravitate towards in terms of information digestion, their preference on LLM for, whatever it might be, is still helping me even discover their levels of understanding and their level of AI forward readiness.
Yeah.
Um, and to one of our points earlier too, of who am I surprised for adoption?
Yeah.
I have some of our CFOs who, for lack of a better, like very old school, just like Excel, like do their thing, don't use all the bells and whistles. But it's been really surprising that they have come to me, even though they don't use any of these tools. Like they are the idea sparks of people. They don't use it, but they'll be like, I'm sure you could build something like that. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, we totally can. And I think that's why, and this is actually going to go to my big point that I would want to make, is I feel like AI is not for everybody to use. I think that companies will be more successful in adoption if there is a specific team to implement versus individual people to try to take on themselves. Because A, you're not going to get scalable processes. It's going to be harder to get full departmental use if everybody's building their own bots or their own, whatever it might be, or apps, right? Your own apps. Um, so I think what I'm doing, and actually what I've just hired for my team, which using Tyler, I just hired an AI engineer to help me build and provide. So that way I know this is the source of truth data. This is how you're operating this new workflow and attacking it at a very systematic level versus trying to say, hey, here's a platform. Think about what you do every day and try to make your day-to-day better. I
Yeah.
think it's actually the opposite. And once people start using these tools as part of their daily work responsibilities from like a systematic workflow perspective, now they're getting their gears turning and finding ways to find it for their individual workload.
Well, I think it's both. So I think you sit in like an interesting place where um you're like because you're on the client delivery side. So and
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're sitting with like multiple CFOs and multiple clients, right? So
Yeah.
you get to like see where the like patterns are and you're like, well, this
Yeah.
absolutely is like a thing that happens time and time again. And,
Yeah.
we should just like take this like one thing and automate it for all
Hmm.
of our CFOs and all of our clients. Cause why shouldn't we, right? Like that's
Yeah.
going to be where we get efficiencies off of it. And of course, like if you do that for all of your CFOs and your clients, they're going to be like, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Like
great, right?
that's crazy. That's awesome. So I
Yeah.
think that totally makes sense. I mean, one of the things that have changed with Elvex since you last saw it
Yeah.
is
That's
that
great.
is that we've placed a lot more effort on we're kind of like the pillar we're talking about is like guidance. Like how
Yeah.
do we take
Hmm.
somebody from zero, not having any experience with it, to getting them to be a power user without
Yeah.
like trainings, without stuff like that, but just using the system. And so
I
the
like
big
that.
the big area for us there is like context. And
Yeah.
it is about like when you first now log into Elvex, tell not just telling us like what your role is, what you're doing, but really starting to build up this layer of these are the projects they're working on. This is like the department level context that's important for you. Here's like the company level context, and then individually, here's like the things that I care about, and then working in a push way versus a pull way. So instead of people you going into the platform and saying I don't know what to do with this. It's a plain chat thing. Like, what should I be doing with this? It's like, hey, here's the last project you were working on. Here's like three agents that, have been created that can help you out. Do you want to continue working on this? So it's
Yeah.
much more of a push mentality around the work to guide people to the right places at the right
Yeah.
time versus just like empty chat box figure
Yeah.
out what you
Like
should be
here, go
using it.
play.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah.
like,
which I
what am
think,
I?
like that type of stuff is still important too, because there is
Yeah.
like this level of serendipity you can get out of somebody just playing around and experimenting with stuff. Like we totally saw this when you were at Embark,
Yeah.
but I think it's like that's not enough. There has, if you're going to like launch something with everybody, it has to be more forward looking around, well, what are the specific things I can help you out with, given
Yeah.
what I know about you, your team, your company.
Exactly. And I think
Your,
like it's both ways. I think that the more they're exposed to larger workflow replacement, the more they're thinking about what else can
yeah,
I do for myself, right?
yeah,
So I think we're starting in a place where we're getting them exposed and saying, "Hey, actually I built a persona that teaches them about AI, for
yeah,
example." Right? Like
yeah,
I'm right? And like I rebuilt the entire onboarding process when we hire a new CFO. Like they go through this training, they go through all of this, and all of it is within different AI tools, different, they have to basically do a bingo card of like, have you played with Notebook LM? Have you played with
yeah.
Claude? Here's how to, use Uru, like whatever it might be. Um, just
Do
to
you
get them.
find that like people get a little bit of overload with all the different systems?
There's
Or
so
are they
many
just like, yeah,
tools.
whatever, we'll just try
You
out all these
know,
things?
I don't think so because at the front, it's like, we're very intentional with our hiring in CFOs. We want to make sure they are AI forward thinking, right? So that's actually more of a requirement these days, especially because with all, and Ignition has this separate space as well where we're researching all of the new like AI enhanced ERPs, like the new
Hmm.
FP&A planning tools. Like we have a space where we're researching and having, building relationships with these different vendors to understand how they're doing stuff. So we want to bring in CFOs who are already like thinking about that change in technology anyway. So I think not only have we changed our hiring for that, but we know that they're interested in these things as they come in.
What about on the client side? Like, I'm very curious because obviously, like, finance and accounting is one of the areas that a lot of AI is being talked about. Like,
Yeah.
is there expectation on their side where they're like, hey, you guys should be using it, or is it more like you're bringing it to the table saying, hey, we're going to automate these things?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the latter. I think they have an expectation of like, okay, they're gonna, and we don't do this a ton, right? We don't do outsource like bookkeeping. We're more on the
Yeah,
higher controller plus level, strategic CFO partner stuff. But it's like, hey, we already have an expectation that you're helping us in board meetings, that you're making sure our financials, are, whatever they might have as an issue. But when we go in and say, hey, here's your board deck. It took me less time because
yeah.
we do this in-house and therefore I have more time to do this, or they just
Or I
experience.
actually think like a lot of the stuff is like speed, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say
how
they
quickly can you
expect like a
close the books? So yeah,
quicker turnaround, right?
right.
Like, and that's part of it too, is the quality of delivery is just better and faster and more repeatable as well. Like I have a template or a Claude skill that knows our board meeting PowerPoint template, right?
Yeah,
Like you just throw in the
Yeah.
information and it'll build it for you instead of having someone, bill per hour and takes like 5 hours to get this board deck. Like we cut through all of that and we say, hey, you have us. It's more like almost retainer model too. Like we're
yep.
like, hey,
Yeah.
you got us. So you got our time. We're going to be super efficient to give you more of that strategic value back. And so when we're able to communicate that to our clients, they're like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool,
And
But
you
I would say
you
their
were saying your clients
expectation.
are mostly startups, so are they like more willing for kind of a new, fresher approach? Are they
Yeah,
venture
absolutely.
backed, like mostly tech companies, or?
Yeah, I would say a lot of SaaS, a lot of like VC-backed companies for sure. But I mean, we have a lot of different industries. We got some like healthcare technology recently that's been really cool. A lot of like disaster recovery architecture, real estate, family office. I mean, we're across the board, but I would say a lot of our clientele do, definitely start in kind of more of that SaaS, VC-backed stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so they're open to
Yeah.
an AI enabled.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Especially because then again, we have a team that's looking into the ramps, the rillets, the like all of those different technologies that are also coming out.
Yeah,
And we're all, we're able to, we always, and Craig, our CEO and founder, he always calls it dog fooding it.
yeah,
We try out everything here in our own sandbox, our own financials, our own stuff. And then we're like, okay, cool. I would recommend this to a client.
yeah.
And so we're also helping in that way to make sure that all of these companies that we work for, they can also stay on the cutting edge of how to make their lives easier, whether or not they keep Ignition as a CFO or not. We're
Right.
helping them build out their infrastructure for future efficiency. So it's a lot of research. It's a lot of fun. I'm in demos all the time. Um, so that's why I said I'm head of client delivery, like and technology. Because half the time I think I'm talking to different vendor products and trying to understand what they're doing that's also cutting edge, whether to make our CFOs better at their jobs and therefore a better client experience, or, just in general making sure that we stay on top of things. So,
Well, you have
Um,
like amazing experience both at Embark with rolling out, navigating, evaluating AI technologies, and now at Ignition.
yeah,
Um,
it's
like
wild.
what advice would you give people
Oh
if
my
they're
gosh.
like considering looking at technologies or they want to build something or they want to roll something out? You gave some tips earlier just around like find a workflow that you think is gonna top down like gonna make sense for everybody, but what like anything else?
I think that you have to be ready to invest the time and money and the tone at the top efforts to be AI forward because I think for lack of I mean, you can't half-ass it is what I'm gonna say, right? There's so many tools and you guys know like with your platform too, there's all these different LLMs to choose from. There's a lot of different ways you can attack it, push, pull, whatever, like however you want to approach it. But things change so quickly that you have to be ready to designate this as like a full-time job of somebody who's on top of it, who's ready to implement it. Who you're giving that space to, whether it's someone internal, like, Scott from Embark kind of merged into that role,
Yep.
right? Became kind of their own like center of excellence of AI is coming from here. Or you hire an AI outside consulting team to help assess and recommend a tool and implement. And that's actually, where we are actually going to go as well from an Ignition perspective, because right now we're doing fractional CFO work, right? We are talking about doing with our own AI engineering team that is doing this for Ignition. We're going to start offering as
Oh,
like
cool.
a consulting of, hey, we're going to come in and assess and look at your workflows and look for those high value, high impact areas that now we can help, say, hey, we've already dog food all these tools. This is the tool
hmm.
that's going to help fix this problem and also start introducing and teaching AI as well. Right. So
Can your clients hire Tyler Jones? Is like that's what you're thinking about, or
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
absolutely. So, we're here to be your CFOs, and then here's a separate team that if you also want to be AI forward and get other systems in place that might not have to do with finance, like we can also help assess there too.
that's
And so
awesome.
that's something that's happening excitingly enough. So yeah, so I think that you have to be ready to either put your own internal resources on this as a very full-time effort, or you need to look outside because like I said, the number of tools, the level of effort, uh, trying to understand workflows, take them on, figure out the right tool to use, and then implement them and go through change management and implementation. Like that's not that's not going to again typically be someone who has a full-time job in your company who's ready to take that on and then take it full scale, right? It can happen if you give them that space, but you have to be ready to give them that space is kind of what I'm saying. So if it is an outside person or if it's an inside person that you're giving that opportunity, you have to be ready for that investment. Because and again, I think I saw a couple of your articles, Sashi, too, of all of these AI investments companies are making and it fails miserably.
Yeah.
Is truly because of that. There's not a good deployment plan. There's not the investment and like the team and the approach on how they're going to do it successfully. So I do think that
Sometimes the tools are bad, not for Alex, but
sometimes the
sometimes the
tools are
tools are
bad. Sometimes they're not ready for it. It's not communicated, the tone at the top. I mean, you've heard me say all of those things in our
yeah.
previous discussions, at Embark. I think that I was fortunate at Embark to have that tone at the top who said this is something happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm absolutely super lucky. They hired me with AI in mind here at this company, right? But you have to have a designated research and know-how and a plan forward, because this stuff doesn't sleep. Like
Well, so that's, I mean, that's the tricky part, right? That's what I think a ton of companies wrestle with, which is, I think most companies would agree with you. Like, we need to
yeah.
have that in place. But I think, if you talk to the board that is like sitting around discussing this, the board is probably pushing executives like, yeah, you can't, but you can't wait to like hire that person or build that team. Like,
Exactly.
you got to get people going now with this stuff so you're not falling behind because
Exactly.
the whole space is changing so fast. So I think
Exactly. And I
people are
think,
kind of they're like dealing with this catch 22 of like, well, I got to get everybody trained and up and running on something. But I also know that if I don't have the right people, then it's not going to like work well. So like, what do I do? And I think that's something we think about a lot is like,
yeah,
well, can the platform help out while you're, you know, continuing to like search for the right talent? Because the,
yeah,
you know, that's like just both of those things are hard to do simultaneously in a way that works unless if you're like smaller because smaller you
yeah.
could just move quicker, right?
Absolutely. And I think that too, that's why we're trying to do kind of a like the fractional AI officer instead of the fractional CFO is like,
Yeah,
hey, we'll come in and say, like, here's where you can instantly get value. Do you need a recruiter? We know how to build a recruiter who can operate, and that's instant ROI, right?
right.
Like a small team who doesn't have a need for a full-time recruiter, whatever it might be. Great. We'll build you a recruiter and here you go, right? Like,
Off to
and,
the
and
races. Yeah,
great. Or if it's like, hey, you don't know what platform to use, here, we've tried Alvex, we've tried Uru, we've tried like, and again, there's a ton, we've tried Notebook LM, we've tried Claude, we've tried whatever it might be. And here's the main issue that we can do the highest value. Like, here's how we would recommend, and here's how we're going to help implement it, right? So I do think not a lot of companies are ready to build it internally, and I don't think they should, depending on where they're at. But also I think there's a fix or at least a direction that they can get from
And
somebody
what
who's done it before.
your clients like, what kind of model do they want you to just like extend the tech to them? It's like a cost plus, or is it like, you're going to log into something that we get ourselves and you're going to build it in our own system? Like, what's the business model for that?
Yeah, so and I'll speak from like Ignition consulting space from the fractional CFO, coming from a research and understanding of new systems like Ramp or Rillet or all these different areas. We make those introductions. So like let's say we're like, hey, you guys would be a great candidate for Alvex. Like we'll make that introduction. And then if you guys had an implementation team, we would just kind of help make sure that you guys are meeting the needs and kind of partner with you.
Hmm.
That's definitely something we've done with, like I said, we help get clients on Ramp because we love it so much, or we've looked at Relay or Campfire or all these other ERPs. So we know how to do that, and we're actually becoming implementation partners for some of these AI enabled ERPs.
Yep.
Um, so I guess it's kind of like a twofold. We'll help you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it
yeah.
if it's especially if it's in the office of the CFO, or we'll make sure that you guys have the good partner introduction because we've already vetted you ourselves. So we know we're recommending a product that we've already done our own research on. And that's again part of the team of making sure we try everything ourselves first.
Very sweet.